Hey everybody, it is Wednesday, April 21st? 22nd. April 22nd, Wednesday, 1 o'clock Central Time. We're doing chapters 5 and 6, I hope I said that, yep, of WarMage Unexpected from the Never Ending War series today. Thunderstorms are expected here at some point. Supposedly it was going to be here sooner, and we're under a tornado watch, so that's the excitement for the day. Lois is behind me at her usual post, watching out for anybody who might walk by. Everybody knows this house because of dear sweet Lois. Leela is in the other room hanging out. I'm doing great. I can't remember what week we're in for sheltering in place. I think it's week 6, but I've kind of lost count. I hope y'all are doing okay too. Hello, Grace. So Grace is starting a watch party, so you can find me there. Hi, Diane and Nancy and Mike and whoever else has joined, and probably Sheila. Hi, Mike, you found it. Good. Okay, so we're going to start with chapter 5 and 6 from WarMage from the Never Ending War series, book 1, WarMage Unexpected. And the new Science of Magic book just came out, and I'm sure Grace will post in the comments what the title is because I cannot remember the name of it. Hey! Yeah, Mike, you manage to find us all the time. You're not sure how to do it. It's all you need. Okay, so chapter 5 from WarMage. There was a knock at the door. Connor always stood up and gathered the skull in his arms. I need to get this back in a safe place. You get the door. Raven looked at him, confused. What, are you worried someone is going to steal an old skull? If somebody sees this, they're going to start asking questions. I'm not in the mood to tell old stories. Raven waited till her grandfather disappeared down the hall before she opened the door. On the other side was a tall young man with long, dirty blonde hair falling just past his ears and an easy smile. William Moss squinted through the screen door with bright blue eyes and tugged on his ill-fitting khaki-colored shirt. Hey, William, come on in. She pushed the screen door open and let the older teenager inside. What are you doing here in the middle of the day? Shouldn't you be working? Shouldn't you be getting your chores done? Get a move on. You have school too. No classes today. Yesterday was mostly orientation. We dive in headfirst to all of it tomorrow. I was expecting to find you outside. I checked both barns and the shed. One of the hands told me you were still in here. Hey, what happened to your shoulder? Got into it with an elf over a goat. I won, and there's one sorry elf out there licking his wounds. William held up his hand to high-five and laughed, putting his hand back down. Maybe later. I'll be out doing some of my chores pretty soon. I still have one good arm. Who did you talk to out there? William peeked out the window. I don't know his name. Not as old as the rest of the hands, really skinny. Scruffy face? Yeah. That's Edward. Did he sound pissed? The young man laughed. Yeah, like you were slacking off on the job. Raven laughed with an incredulous tone. I ought to spark his britches with a couple of fire marbles. I do more work by 10 a.m. than he does all day long. Hey, William. Connor returned to the room empty-handed. How are you, my boy? I'm well, sir, and you? Nothing an old rancher can't handle. He glanced at Raven and gave her a hard look she recognized. William caught the look and smiled at Raven. Your folks doing well? Yes, sir. Business at the Dragon Ranch is as strong as ever. The old man rubbed his hands together. It's a good season for everybody. Our milk is selling well. I imagine dragons are in demand. William flashed a bright smile. Always, sir, and there's never many who pass the test, even in a good year. Why are you here, young Moss? I just needed a break. Can I sit down? Connor nodded at him. Thanks. Feels good to take a load off. Raven looked at the old clock on the mantel. It's not like it's late in the day. It's barely morning. How are you so tired already? He put his feet up on an ottoman and looked up at the two of them with a shrug. One of our ranch hands, Fester Solomon, didn't show up for work today. Connor sat back down in his chair looking concerned. That's odd. You have a great staff over there. William shook his head. He's nowhere to be found. He must have decided to move on to another ranch, but it's odd. He was one of our best. Always on time, never late. Can't figure it out. We lost a hand recently, too. Connor clicked his tongue. Strange. Who'd we lose? Raven looked up surprised. Isaac Irving, the new guy. His bunkmate claimed he willed all his stuff to him. It's only been a week. He'll run out of money and wine and turn up again and take back his things. Happens from time to time. That's why I'm here taking a break. I've been working hard since before dawn, and I've got a dragon that's not falling in line. A real headstrong case. Beautiful creature. He shook his head, weary. I just wanted to get away for a few minutes, then I'll head back. Youngsters. In my day, we didn't get breaks. Had to make sure we finished before dusk. Definitely before dusk. Grandpa, Raven said good-naturedly, nudging him. We still have to do that. The swarm lasts, but every generation is still teaching us to be afraid. Not my idea, her grandfather said gruffly. Raven traded glances with William. I'll be right back, William. Raven walked down the hall to her room. She stood in the center of the room and shut her eyes. Just one more. What's the harm? Redigidum dolor. Warm, soothing energy passed through her shoulder, reducing the pain. She let out a sigh of relief and grabbed a fresh overshirt, pulling it on over her tunic as she left her room and went back down the hall. You can tag along for a few minutes with me if you want. I have to get back to work. The young man raised his eyebrows. With that on your shoulder? Are you sure? She shook her head as she gingerly slid her arm into the shirt. The work doesn't stop. You just said it. Besides, there's plenty to do without having to lift anything. I'll take it easy today, Grandpa. Can you help me with this? She handed William a piece of muslin and he helped her fashion a sling. There, it'll be fine. I can still help. The old man nodded, trying not to smile. Perhaps. I'll let the hands know. She slipped on her boots at the door, muttering to herself, I can still carry my load. Connor cleared his throat as he rose to his feet. Yeah, and everyone knows it, even if they won't admit it. Most of the hands don't do half the work you do. If any of them took an arrow to the shoulder, they'd take 2 or 3 days off and head to the pub. Piss on them. Good to see you, William. Say hi to your folks. Nice to see you too, sir. I will. Come on, William. Raven pushed the screen door open and stepped out into the sunshine. Her eyes squinted while they adjusted to the brightness. What do you think happened to your ranch hand? William jogged to catch up to her side. I don't know. It's really confusing. They walked by 2 men working on a piece of equipment as Raven lowered her voice. Did you hear about the satellite ranch that was found abandoned? No sign of what happened to the family that lived there. No, and how did you hear about that? Local gossip. Always accurate, said William, smirking. Yeah, well, hard to get wrong that a ranch is just empty. That's their whole lives. It looks like they just up and left in the middle of the day. Everybody's gone. Food's still on the table. Disappeared into thin air. Let's go this way. I'm headed to the barn with the kids. That's crazy. What do you think it would have been? Raven shrugged. Maybe the same thing that took your ranch hand and the same thing that took ours too. A conspiracy. I don't know. Why would anyone want them? Trying to build a rogue army? He let out an easy laugh, but Raven glared at him and he stopped smiling. Okay, I'll admit it. I've heard the same rumors when I've been in town. William stepped ahead and pulled open the door of the barn for her, but I don't know if I believe them. Thanks. She stepped into the barn. What did you hear? Something about raiders or maybe the return of the swarm. He laughed as he said the last part. Yep, I bet there's evidence out there. It's just that nobody's looked yet. Come on, the swarm doesn't exist anymore, remember? No one knows for sure because it's happening outside the wall. She stopped in her tracks and faced William. We should go check it out. William stopped walking. Stop kidding around. I'm serious. We'll wait until nightfall so nobody will know we're gone. Just sneak out there and take a look around. Look, I don't buy the whole swarm story either, but that doesn't mean there isn't something out there with a grudge taking out ranchers. Could be a squad of warriors from another kingdom, which would still be deadly. Then someone should know that too. We'll take a couple of dragons so it'll be quick, safer. She opened the pen to the baby goats. 2 of them charged at her feet and began nipping at her toes, the others bouncing on all 4s, jumping over each other. Wouldn't be a big deal. The young man stayed outside the pen by the gate. Bad idea. You're a mage in training, Raven, not a dragon rider or a warrior. William saw Raven clench her jaw and tried to change the subject. You got a hit from an elf, Raven. Take it easy. Arrow do that to your shoulder? She snorted, wincing even as she tried to hide her annoyance. Yeah, he had pretty good aim, but even though I wasn't armed, he couldn't take me down. William leaned forward and rested his arms on the fencing around the pen. That is the nice thing about raising dragons. No elves. What's an elf going to do with a dragon? The damn thing would eat an elf before he'd go with them. They both laughed. He was a pesky little shit, too. They usually are. William watched Raven check the baby goats one by one, petting their thick fleece and checking their limbs and faces. Look at you nuzzling all these baby goats like you're some kind of softie. I'm just doing my job. No, I know that, but you come from a family of such tough, important wizards, and you're taking care of these delicate, adorable little animals. Meanwhile, I'm messing around with big old fire-breathing, scaly beasts that could kill any of us with one swipe. Raven shook her head as she examined the legs of a small black goat standing between her feet. Yeah, well, you're lucky. At least you chose your path. No one's trying to tell you you're an Albie and that means you're a mage in training. Sorry about that. I didn't mean anything. I know you didn't. Raven cut him off. She stood up straighter, cradling a kid under her good arm. It's just that I have dreams too, you know. I mean, maybe I do want to be a mage. Maybe I don't. Maybe I want to ride a dragon high above the clouds, she thought. William stood up and inspected a long scratch on his arm. Training dragons is hard labor. We've got this one dragon that just won't let up. Fights back every time we try to talk to him. Won't do anything we need him to do. He's getting to be a real problem, and sooner or later he's going to have to take the test. Dragons suck too. Raven set down the kid, watching them all scamper around and jump over each other, high in the air. Oh, and goats are better? She shrugged. Look at them. This is pretty much it. He opened the gate for her. Hey, it's family business versus family business. I didn't choose to deal with dragons any more than you chose to handle dwarf goats. It's our lot in life. That's just how it goes. Your father gave you a choice, and you wanted to stay with the business. She stepped out of the pen and closed the gate behind her. Of course, for me, it's not goats for too much longer. How so? I had my first day at Fowler yesterday. Oh, right, the Albie legacy. They both walked back out of the barn. A tougher calling to turn down. That's going to be a while. I don't know. I've already made a huge impression on the headmaster. He says he's going to keep an eye on me. That can only mean good things. Maybe I'll skip a grade and start advanced spells. You may have just a couple of things to learn with the rest of the rookies. It's a big world out there, and I want to go explore it. And if there is a menace, I want to help stop it. You're an Albie, all right. You get it from your parents. They both commanded respect wherever they went. Raven looked up at the sky. Yeah, I wish they were still around. My grandfather doesn't really get that. He's always trying to rein me in, stop me from doing stuff. He'll teach me a spell, then follow me around and warn me to be careful. Or show me how to use a weapon and caution me to use it sparingly. He tells me I'm just like my mother, endlessly curious. It's not like I don't get that's code for headstrong and always into something. William lifted a pole by the gate in front of another pen for older goats, securing it in place. It must be hard to figure out who you are without your parents. Raven crossed her arms over her chest and looked out at the horizon. I don't know any other way. Grandpa has done his best. Look, this is who I am, she said, with more intensity than she intended, lifting her good arm. William looked surprised, his forehead wrinkling. Yeah, sure, okay, I get it. Talk much? Raven tried to smile at him. I'm better at staying 10 seconds on a snarling dragon, he said, smiling as he rubbed the back of his neck. You know, the dragons we're raising are pretty vicious, right? Breathing fireballs, could eat you in one bite. And God forbid you get hit with one of their paws when they swat at you, take off an ear. I saw that happen to a guy. You do not want to come back from lunch and find an ear on the ground. Okay. My point is, dragons wield a lot of power, but it's my job as a trainer to make sure they use their power responsibly. I don't want to keep them from being powerful, not that I could, but I just want them to understand what their powers can do, and when to use them. They started to walk back up the ranch. That may be, but I'm not a dragon dude, I'm a mage. She pointed a finger at William. Don't say in training. Wouldn't dare. You may have the power already, but you have to learn how to use it, and in different ways at different levels. I gotta get back to work. Thanks for the break. Anytime. Good luck over there. Let me know if you find out what happened to the ranch hand. Promise me you won't go looking for clues on your own outside of the wall. I promise, she said, her fingers crossed behind her back. William waved and walked back up the road toward his ranch. Raven returned to the shed where Edward was busy sorting through tools. He kicked the wall of the shed in frustration. Problem, Ed? He looked over his shoulder. Just missing a harvester. We've got other ones, right? She pointed to a row of harvesters. Edward nodded, distracted and still rooting around for more tools. Yeah, but we need every one of them. Your grandfather wants all the tools organized and kept in the shed. We catch hell if they're not all in here when they're not being used. He took off his hat and held it against his head, his other hand on his hip. It'll turn up. They have a way of doing that. Or maybe you can learn a spell or two that can help us find it, huh? How about that? He smiled, exposing a wide gap in his two front teeth. Hey, what happened to your shoulder? Elle's in the goat pen again. Damn them critters. Pesky little shits. Does the other guy look worse? He gave another gap-toothed smile. Raven let out a sigh. Well, he looks hungry. I kept the goat, safe and sound. I'll take it. Now if I could just find that harvester. He wandered toward the back of the large barn, muttering to himself, already onto something else. Raven walked over to the larger barn to see if she could help feed the goats, still wondering about the whereabouts of Isaac Irving. With her right arm, she grabbed fistfuls of the processed polygrass and tossed it to the little goats, who bounded forward to chow down. The remnants of pain from her other shoulder made her take a sharp intake of breath, but she pushed forward, smiling at the goats. She looked up at the wall again, lost in thought. If only I could see that ranch out there and get William to go with me. Okay, chapter 6. And hello, Colleen. And yes, this extra sound effects. Yes, that's Lois's job. And you might still be able to hear her behind me still making small noises. Hi, Tim. I'm glad you're here. And hi, Nancy. So let's move on to chapter 6. Deacon rolled up his sleeves after loading the last glass jug of goat milk onto the wagon, a small, well-built wain. A gentle old chestnut mare, Presley, was attached at the front, pawing at the ground. Raven, you ready? We have to hit the road. Sun is rising in the sky. He pulled a handful of oats out of his pocket and held it under Presley's muzzle, rubbing her head. The girl sighed as she came out of the barn, feeling drained from the wound in her shoulder. Yeah, I'm coming. Everything loaded up? Yep. Let me help you up and let's get going. He held out a hand and Raven reluctantly took it, a wave of dull pain sliding from her shoulder into her back. She slid across the bench to make room. You do this every day, Deacon? Yes, ma'am. And with Isaac gone, it's nice to have the company, so thank you for that. That's nice of you to say, but I know he helped you with the deliveries. I take the days as they come. I tell myself every morning, you have to start from where you are and work with what you got. Good life rules. I'll remember that. Come on, Presley, let's get a move on. Time and milk wait for no one. The wain was bouncing along over the rutted dirt road in no time. Raven kept shifting on the broad, polished board that made up the seat. She held her arm more tightly against her chest, each bounce sending a wave of pain across her back. Nothing like what they're going to teach you at that fancy school, but valuable all the same. He nodded to the road up ahead. Once we hit the gate, we need to take a sharp right turn, or the wain will go too wide and we'll end up in the ditch, and a lot of ruined milk. He laughed. Your shoulder getting the best of you? We can take a break and pull over. Presley's pulling to the right anyway, trying to get to the tender wild grass. Sorry, Deacon. I may not make it. I should have let you find someone else. The pain was radiating out through her shoulder, but they were still a ways from the first shops. She hesitated, the words coming out haltingly. I could try a spell. I think I have a good one. Deacon's expression changed and he adjusted the reins in his hands. You know a spell that could help? He glanced over at her, shaking his head. I had no business asking you with an injured shoulder. Should have waited for Lincoln to get freed up. Helping me deliver is just going to make you late for school. Hey, there's no school today. He cut her off, the words spilling out. Magic is precious anyway, Raven. You know that. You use a spell now, you may not have it for something else in a few minutes. You have to think ahead. If we all went around using magic willy-nilly, we'd all be running on low when we needed it. Besides, back in the day when they could use it all the time, there was a time when magic was everywhere? People used it all the time? Oh, sure, a long time ago, but magic brings its own set of problems and can even lead to darkness sometimes. Do you have a spell in mind? If you don't, we'll be fine. We can figure out how to get Presley moving along. But Deacon had slowed down just enough to give the old mare the opening she was looking for, and she was angling the wain to the left, almost to the grassy side of the road. I think Presley has another idea, said Raven, trying to hide her pain with a tight smile. I see your point, said Deacon with a gentle smile. Time for the spell? Asked Raven. You're definitely an Albie. Okay, just this once, but nothing flashy. I don't want to send you to school and then you can't do anything in class. Whoa, Presley. He pulled harder on the reins, working to get Presley back under control, but with little success. Illustrator. Raven swiped her arm over the horse as the wagon jiggled and shook, the milk sloshing around. Good choice, said Deacon. The wheels lifted ever so slightly off the ground, rolling along easily on the pocket of air. Presley let out a whinny, lifting her head and suddenly looking straight ahead. Do me a favor and act like it's still tough going. Not a problem. Raven relaxed against the back of the seat, still feeling a twinge in her injured shoulder. Deacon shook the reins in his hand, urging Presley to start up, and she reluctantly pulled herself away from the grass. Raven, why didn't you try a spell to heal your shoulder? The elf's arrow bit into the shoulder. There's no way the healing spell I know would have done enough. You know your limits. That's good. That won't last long. You're smart as a whip, always have been. At the end of the gate, Deacon took a sharp right to go down the road, the shops finally in sight. Atta girl, Presley. Nicely done. We'll tie up the wain in the middle of town, and I'll take the deliveries by hand from there. Usually Isaac and I would split up, but you can keep me company. It'll pass the time. They rode mostly in silence, getting closer to the town center, occasionally making a delivery. Finally, they turned a corner, and the town square was in front of them. Deacon startled at the sight of a crowd of people milling about. Ah, shit. The army's doing a draft right now. Let's pull over there and set up shop. We're not going to reach the middle, much less the other side. Raven waited for Deacon to find a place to tie up Presley and slip a feed bag over her head, leaving her to happily munch on oats. He hopped back into the cart to watch the draft. He sat back on the bench and she leaned over to whisper, I thought the next one wasn't until spring. She waved her arm back over the wagon, removing the spell. The wheels gently came to rest in the packed dirt. Me too. Odd day, wouldn't you say? From the get-go, and it hasn't really stopped. She adjusted her shoulder to let her arm rest more comfortably. A line of young men stood with their hands clasped behind their backs, their chests puffed out and their shoulders rolled back. Pacing in front of them was Cameron Wilson, a tall, well-dressed master wizard, built like a tank with a barrel chest and a long black wool coat that stretched tightly across his frame. He was well known around the city and had been in charge of protecting it for as long as Raven could remember. One by one, he announced the names of each of the young men in the line. You have all been enlisted into the Brighton Army. As per the law, you will serve a minimum of 2 years, where you will endure rigorous training and instruction in the services of protecting our kingdom and its people. At the end of the training, a few of you may even become dragon riders. The crowd roared with applause. Dragon rider, whispered Raven. She looked over at Deacon, watching the gathering with rapt attention. You join the ranks of a long tradition of wizards who have bravely gone before and dedicated a portion of their lives to ensuring the peace and safety of all of us. We honor your new commitment and service. The young wizards turned in a neat line and followed the wizard. You know, Deacon, I want to try and help you with the deliveries. It'll be okay, and it'll help speed us up. I can take the smaller ones. Really? It was making her antsy to just sit there. She was used to always being in motion. I'd say no, but I've known you since you were no bigger than yay high. Fine, I'll divvy them up and you get me if you need anything. Once they had their assignments, Deacon pulled 2 large jugs of milk off the cart and carried them down the road, weaving through the crowd of people. With only one good arm, Raven would have to make her deliveries one at a time. Annoyed, she grabbed the first jug and hoisted it off the cart. After dropping off the jug of milk at a leather shop, she turned and headed back to the cart where Deacon was looking for his next delivery. You doing okay? Deacon looked at her sideways, going back to checking the next order. It's a good distraction. I can do a few more. You're not worried about anybody making off for the milk or Presley, are you? We're leaving this unattended. Deacon waved off this suggestion. No, we've done this before. These are good people, and there's no need to steal. Raven pointed at the crowd. Then why an early draft? What? We're so safe. Why pull strong young wizards away from their fields and their jobs? Deacon picked up the next order, balancing the jugs against his chest. Safe inside the walls. Yeah, but look at them. She nodded toward the crowd. There are old people smiling and hugging them, shaking their hands. It's like they're being treated as if they're going into battle. They haven't even gone to training yet. And nobody's messed with us in over 50 years. One thing you can count on from politicians and powerful wizards. They won't tell you much, but if you pay attention, you'll learn a lot just the same. Deacon hoisted another jug off the wagon. Raven watched the master wizard passing among his new recruits, smiling and nodding. But she could see the tension around his eyes. She tilted her head to the side. They know something. Deacon let out a belly laugh as he walked away. They always do. Stay out of trouble while I'm gone, Raven. Deep in thought, Raven pulled another jug off the wain and walked up the road to make her next delivery. As she walked along, a large splash of water struck her on the left side of her face. She stumbled to her right and let the jug down carefully. Blinking the water out of her eyes, she wiped it off, the ends of her hair dripping. What the hell? A young man with dark brown hair and slightly older than her, wearing filthy clothing and dirt all over his face, jogged up to her with a panicked expression. Oh, I am so sorry. What is happening? Raven spit out the words, tasting grit in her mouth. What a day! I was just washing the horses and that last bucket of water got away from me. Don't worry, it was clean. Ugh. She ran her hands through her hair, trying to squeeze out the water. It's okay, it was an accident. I appreciate you apologizing. Of course, I would never do that on purpose. He patted at her hair with a damp, dirty rag as Raven tried to duck out of the way. We're good, okay, nope, don't need that. She held up her hands, doing her best not to touch him. The fragrant smell of horses seemed to rise off his skin. Let me start over. My name is Quinn Warren. Well, Quinn Warren, you need to work on your aim. You didn't hit me directly or miss me entirely. Kind of a half measure. Quinn looked at her, startled, not sure what to do. His hand was frozen in midair, the rag crumpled in his hand. It was a joke. It's okay, I didn't melt. She patted her chest, making herself take a deep breath and relax. I'm Raven. Raven I'll be. She looked past him to the tall pair of Clydesdales standing together, the warm sun already drying them off. You're a groomsman? Yeah, but from where I come from, I'm called a hostler. I'm traveling through from the northwest part of the kingdom, a city called Jenkinstown. Raven nodded. I've heard of it. You traveled here last night? What's it like being on the road? Are you always someplace different? A lot of the time. I kind of like it though. You meet new people, see new things, and the food, always changing. Every region has their own specialties. Why so many questions? Do you have any place in particular in mind? He walked back to the pair of large brown horses with long hair around their ankles. They were both tied loosely at a post. No, just curious. I'm usually right here, inside the walls. I don't get to see the world out there. Quinn looked around and smiled. Seems like a nice place to be. He picked up a stiff wire brush and rubbed it against the hide of the larger horse. Good workhorses. Raven grabbed the jug off the ground and wandered over to watch him scrubbing the bellies of the animals. You do this all day? She set it back down next to her and watched, mesmerized by the large animals. No, this is just part of what I do. We rode in pulling a large delivery. He smiled as he moved to the back of the horses, still brushing the thick coat. Gotta be careful back there. I get too rough and they'll make a point of stepping on me. But I've built a mutual trust with them. I've taken care of them for years. Was this your family business? He stopped her. It's not the most glamorous job, and it sure is thankless at times, but it has its benefits. Raven moved closer, rubbing the mane of the smaller horse and staying to the side where the horse could see her. The stallion raised his hoof, slamming into the mud and splashing her pant leg, giving a loud snort. Raven forgot the pain in her shoulder and laughed, laying her head down on his neck for a moment. Quinn glanced over at her. You don't scare easily, do you? I've been told. Was this always your dream to be a hostler? Yeah, sure, I guess. I'm not sure I gave it a lot of thought. When I was coming up, I was offered an apprenticeship and I liked being outdoors. I liked working with animals. He patted the side of the horse. Seemed like a good fit. He eyed her more carefully. You're asking a lot of big questions, and you already have a nice decoration there on your shoulder. He waited patiently, not saying anything or even searched for the right words. They never came. She wasn't going to share all her secrets and desires with the stranger. I have to get these deliveries out, but it was nice meeting you. The young man dunked his brush in a bucket to rinse it off. Nice meeting you too. Sorry again about splashing you. I'll be more careful. The conversation hung in Raven's head as she approached the Wrangler, a tavern just off the middle of town. She walked in, heaving the jug of milk at her side and greeting the bartender. Hey Zeke, I've got your delivery. Zeke greeted her and took the jug, heading to a back room to get her payment. Meanwhile, 3 old bearded barflies nursed their drinks at the bar, staring her down. Hey, that's Connor's grandkid, ain't it? The middle one laughed, exposing his yellow, rotted teeth beneath his filthy, matted beard. It is. Haven't seen her doing deliveries before now. Hey, anything to keep him away from town. The old wizard still can't show his face around here. Raven leaned forward, resting on the bar. Excuse me? Don't worry about it, sweetheart, one of them said. Your grandpa just can't face up after surviving when almost everyone else died. Has to be more to that story. He pointed to a table in the back corner of the bar where the 2 older men sat quietly. Wizards were the best Brighton had to offer, and then they go and waste it. Crying shame. Raven walked over to the table with the spent wizards, who still had an air of controlled dignity. There was a royal blue patch on each of their shoulders. Doesn't that bother you? One of them smirked. They're not worth the worry. Harmless. We've learned to pick our battles, and they're barely a bothersome gnat. The other lifted his head and gazed at Raven. You're an Albie. You look just like him. We all like Connor. Tell him we remember him. We still save him a seat here all the time. Tell him Joseph says hello. Raven gave him a nod, trying to take in every detail to tell her grandfather later. Here you go, girl. The bartender stood behind the bar with money for Raven, interrupting her thoughts. She closed her mouth and waved at the old Ben. I'll tell him. She took the money from the bartender, thanking him, and headed out. They're our heroes. They deserve more respect. As she walked out the door, she paused in the doorway and turned around to look at the men at the bar, leaning over their beers. She squinted one eye at them and muttered, Effundite summa, under her breath. In an instant, all three of their beers flipped over into their laps. They shrieked at the cold splashes on their pants and leaped out of their seats. Raven looked back at the wizards, who chuckled, but quickly went back to their conversation, their heads tucked together. An old lesson from her grandfather came to mind. Keep watch, and the clues will come together, she muttered, as she stepped outside and headed back to the wagon. One by one, Raven delivered jugs of milk to homes and businesses throughout the town, occasionally checking in with Deacon. We make a good team, Deacon announced. He walked away to his next delivery while she carried another jug down the road. A shadow blocked the sun, and she looked up to see a trio of large dragons soaring over the town, their wings spread out for what seemed like miles. The sun made their skin sparkle in the light, even at a distance. One of the dragons dipped and turned, and she caught sight of the rider on his back, artfully holding on and leaning into the flight, the wind blowing back his hair. Dragon riders, she whispered, so much more to learn. That is chapters 5 and 6. And hello, Julian, who I went to high school with a million years ago. It's nice to see all of you here, and more people are subscribing to the channel, so Adult Storytime seems to be somewhat of a hit. I hope you all enjoyed it. Tomorrow, chapters 7 and 8 of WarMage Unexpected from the Never Ending War series. There is still Guardians of Magic as from the Lyra Chronicles. All those chapters are still up at the YouTube channel. So if you want to catch up, you can. And I hope everyone has a good day. Lois, as usual, has settled down behind me, if you missed her barking earlier. And today I managed to turn on the lights and do this from the right channel. So good day so far, Wednesday. Tonight I am going to Zoom with the neighborhood for the happy hour. Pictionary, name that tune. It's an interesting time. You find different ways to connect. I hope you all are finding ways to connect too. And I will see you here tomorrow. Keep sending me your pictures and letters. Scions of Magic, the new book, just came out today. If you're looking for something new to read, the new Goth Drow is out. That's 3 books in one. That will keep you busy for a while. Quote the Drow. And in 4 days, the new WarMage book will be out. So lots to do. I'm going to go back to working on the new Lyra book. It will be out. They start coming out June 29th. I hope you all have a good day. I love you very much. And I will talk to you later. I'll talk to you tomorrow at 1.